Good afternoon. We start the session, and this is the last session of the evening. If you exclude the drinking session, we'll try to get on time in 1 hour and a bit time in San Casciano. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers, Professor Roggi, Altman, Professor Carletti, and all the organizers of the conference to allow me to moderate. And I also would like to, thank them to once again to invite the DSM to support the conference. 2 years ago we were in Luxembourg, and for us it's very interesting and important because of the kind of risk that we discussed during the last 2 days and tomorrow. So I'm very grateful for that, and also to chair this panel, also because at the end what is good that I'm not a regulator, so I'm in a kind of good position, but for 20 years before joining the DSM, I worked in financial institutions, and noticeably I think I worked for 11 years for RBS, where we had to deal with quite a lot of regulation and regulatory risk because they were also covering compliance. So for me it's very interesting to chair this panel, and just a second, I was looking for that. Here we go. And the title of the panel is The Risk Management and Financial Regulation Nexus. The first word that comes to my mind when we talk about Nexus is something that's been the opposite, is the word hiatus. Because in reality, I think what we discovered with the regulation, with the relationship between regulation and risk management, the more than building a nexus is to understand what has been the hiatus that was created between, say, from a regulatory side and a risk management one. So I would like to start with this kind of little provocation. We talk about nexus, we should talk about hiatus and how we can patch up these two components of what is, I think, a sound governance on an institution. And if you talk about hiatus, I think what comes to my mind is also the word discontinuity. Before we had a fantastic presentation about fintech and pretty much what people they refer the first step towards a financial singularity, in which what is happening on the financial sector especially, but I could say at large in a society, is a big change, and not only the kind of change we saw in terms of new products facing the market, but it's much more, if you allow me, an anthropological change. I was at a conference 2 days ago, no, last week. I'm a bit confused because kind of European tour of conferences last 2 weeks. But I was at a conference in Vienna last week. There was a small bank in Eastern Europe in which they are approving loans, payday loans, using also references and checking also the Facebook page of the people trying to get the payday loan. So I think also this one alone provides a bit of the scope of the challenge that in terms of regulatory risk and in terms of risk and compliance and risk management we are facing. So I think in front of these changes, the panel today I think is going to be very interesting because we have a group of people here that will allow us to look at different aspects of this relationship called hiatus or nexus between regulation and risk management. And so I think without spending more time in the presentation, I would like to introduce briefly our presenters today in order of appearance on stage. And so I think the first one is going to be Aldo Stanziale, Dr. Stanziale from the Banca d'Italia, from Regulation Macroprudential Analysis Directorate, that will provide an introduction to the big themes of regulation from a central banker point of view. Then we're going to have Francesca Campolongo, the head of the Finance Economic Unit, the Joint Research Center of the Commission, that will provide a view about where we are in terms of regulation, in terms of what I will define, if you allow me, harmonization of this huge amount of acronyms and new names. DSM is one of them, in the sense of one of the newest acronyms introduced in Europe. And I think she provides a picture of how this kind of actions then they fall into shape to provide what I believe is my strong belief is a much sounder and stable framework for at least for Europe. Then we're going to have Professor Lusignani, the Vice President of Prometeia, University in Bologna, that will provide what I would define a consultant view about what are the challenges of the banks, especially in relation, I think, to the relation between regulation and strength of capital. That is another important topic. Then we're going to have Mauro Maccarinelli, Head of Financial Market Risk for Banca Intesa San Paolo, that will provide a view, let's call it the first study case on this theme, on the nexus between, or hiatus, between regulation and risk management for the biggest Italian financial institution in relation to market risk especially. And then we have Professor Michel da Coruña from a consulting there that will provide another kind of study case on insurance sector, so pretty much applying this kind of nexus at play in an insurance sector. So I think we could start and then we'll take questions.